As investors anticipate the first quarter numbers, analysts say they expect the Nigerian equities market to see some cherry picking on some sought after stocks. Sodiq Firiyu, an analyst at Meristem Securities, joins us now to give us a market update. Sodiq, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. So pretty flat week as we saw the declines on Friday for the equities markets. And now that we're rounding up the first quarter, my first question to you is, what can we anticipate this week? What typical activities would you say characterize the end of a quarter like this?
Thank you very much, Feli, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, as regards your question on what we are expecting this week, for me, I would expect that if we look at the sentiment actually from last week, we would see that despite the market closing down, there was some optimism and buying activities that went into the market. You take cue from the volume traded for last week, you would see that it came higher than what we had in the previous week. Also, when we look at the market breadth, which measures the ratio of the top gainers, so the gainers for the week and losers, we would see that it came up to 0.9 times compared to 0.4 in the previous week. So the sentiment for last week was really negative. However, we've seen that investors are still, cherry picking on stocks, and there are certain buying activities. For this week, I would expect that would continue. We have some top banks that have not released their financials. We have the March 31st deadline. And so it's expected that we would have influx of financial statements or earnings releases this week. So I would expect that this week we would see buying activities from investors, as certain tickers are at attractive prices, at attractive entry prices. So investors would, take position on these tickers. So I expect it to, for us to see that buying sentiment in the market this week.
Okay, Sodiq, let's talk a bit about what to expect in the second quarter. And now that the elections are behind us, clearly there is litigation around it, but there's just a sense that the year can sort of begin, maybe with fingers crossed on how the litigation around the elections plays out. But now that we have that big event done, do you anticipate strong investor sentiment for stocks, or do you think that the rhetoric from the MPC that suggests even further tightening could weigh on the markets?
Okay, thank you again for the question. So if we look at the dynamics in the markets, we would see that there are lower foreign investor participation in the market, and that has been a reason why even during the election we didn't see so much sell-offs on certain tickers. So now that the elections are done, and we have certain people that we have investors that are optimistic, knowing fully well the strategies and certain measures that the next administration looks to implement. It appears to be pro-market, which sort of mean that it could bolster economic growth, and this in turn could also filter into the equities market. So largely, I would expect that we would see optimism from investors, as the new administration. Obviously, we would have the new administration also come in, kick off with, there is always this first 100 days in office metrics and all of that. So there will still be that, enthusiasm and a lot of optimism and fresh ideas for us to see it trickle into the economy on a large scale. So yes, I would expect that investors would see this as a reason to buy into it. And on the hand of the MPC further tightening rates, we would see again that what you would expect typically, like maybe significant sell-offs, considering the aggressive hawkish stance of the monetary policy. Right. Investors are not so much reacting to it. And so obviously we would expect that there is still optimism from them.
If we get specific on certain stocks, Access Bank clearly announced a deal in Zambia recently. What do you make of that, and what does that tell you about their ambitions outside Nigeria?
Yeah. So Access Corp their Access Holding PLC as it stands, you know that they are very bullish and they are very bullish on inorganic growth. So they intend to actually merge and acquire, other companies. And we've seen this play out in recent times, even as they go on to acquire and their proposition to move outside Nigeria. In their plans for the next 5 years, the company intends to actually, be a gateway to the African market and worldwide. So for this this deal, the transaction of the acquisition of a Zambia company, a Zambia bank, puts them again or further strengthen their stance in the Zambia market. And the deal is expected is expected to be integrated in Q3 2023. And upon completion of that deal, the Access Bank Zambia Limited is expected to be one of the top 5 banks in Zambia. So this as well is expected to, support their top line performance and earnings as they continue to,
Right.
go in organically and expand outside the country.